Hey, good morning. Hope you're well. Today on Resilience Cubed, I'm going to talk about a book that I read that I recommend. It's called The Mask of Masculinity. It's by Lewis Howes, ex-pro athlete. Some of you might know him from a podcast called The School of Greatness, where he interviews lots of people who've achieved personal success and, the mindset and the attitude and everything that's required in order to achieve that, level of self-mastery. And I haven't listened to that for a while. I used to listen to it quite a lot a few years ago, and I moved on to other podcasts now. But this book, someone bought it for me a few years ago because they knew that kind of was my thing, but I hadn't read it. And then just recently, I guess it was the time for me to read it, given how things are going in the world right now and on a personal level. And it's a really interesting read because he talks about 9 masks of masculinity that prevent us from, as men and boys, from embracing what true masculinity is about. And there's a whole narrative online being played out, right, and in the mainstream about what masculinity is or isn't, and behaviours from all kinds of interesting characters. I use that word lightly, interesting. And for me, being a dad to 2 boys, it's not an option for me to not talk about this anymore. I had a project a while ago called Narratives for Men, and it's gone through a couple of iterations, and I guess here we are now. The premise of that project, and it still rings true today, even though I kind of changed it into something else, and I'm kind of bringing it in some ways back towards that. It's about saying, who owns the narrative for men that we see playing out right now in our society, in Western society. Because it's not us. It's not us, the men, who are dealing with the consequences of that. It's others who have a different agenda, an agenda that is not aligned with what I and what Lewis talks about in the book as being true masculinity. The 9 masks. Some of them are the athlete mask, the Stoic Mask, the know-it-all mask. And it's each of those we've all seen, and maybe as men, some of us have had those masks or still have those masks. And the thing is, when we live up to those masks, when we live up to those expectations of what masculinity should be, it impacts our well-being, mind, body, and spirit. Our mental and emotional, physical and spiritual well-being is impacted by those things that don't ultimately serve us. That narrative doesn't ultimately serve us. It doesn't serve the whole host of different issues globally that are impacting men. And in some ways we're trapped by that. Some would argue that, we have a choice, but at the same time, yes, we do have a choice, but, for me, as I see it, most people don't feel like they have a choice. That's the thing. And perception of that. And so for me, this book is, has to be part of that narrative to say, let us as men take ownership of that narrative of masculinity. Those of us that are conscious enough to be aware and to be in a position and privileged enough to have been able to awaken and to be able to remove those masks and discover who we truly are as men and as boys, need to be there in order to help others do the same. And while we can't force others to do that, we certainly can encourage and be the example and be the change that we want to see in the world for ourselves as men, but also for the next generation of boys. This can't continue. This just can't continue. It's madness going on right now, the way the world is impacting us as men and impacting boys. And to women, to the women in lives who've got dads, brothers, nephews, sons, cousins, this is also an encouragement for you to read this book, is an encouragement to say, how can you support the men in your lives, the boys in your lives? Now, not everyone's going to listen, not everyone wants to hear, and that's fine, that's life, right? But for those that are open, for those that are willing to listen, for those that are willing to change and want to make the change, and for those that you have some influence over, could be young sons, could be young nephews, whatever it is, friends, boys, let's be the change as men and women, but as women in particular, understand the challenges that men are out there. Don't listen to the narrative that kind of paints a rose-tinted glasses and a picture with rose-tinted glasses that says everything's okay for men. It's not. We are not okay, and boys are not okay, and we need help, and we can't do it on our own. Men and women, we need to come together. So yeah, I've realized I've got on my soapbox here. I could talk about this for ages, but I hope you can see how passionate I am about this and about helping men and boys. So definitely check out the book. I actually ended up downloading the audiobook and listening to that. I'm going to listen to it again at some point soon. But yeah, Lewis Howes, The Mask of Masculinity is definitely worth checking out. Bless up and love. Peace.